Hi everyone, it's Lady Kaylah here, and today I am going to talk about BDSM and cosplay once again. This video is going to be more along the lines of what we can learn from BDSM. I am not by any means saying to jump into BDSM and be a part of communities that you are not a part of. I'm not advocating that you disrupt a community that you know nothing about because that is disrespectful. Um, these videos are simply to say that there are things in the BDSM community that the cosplay community can learn from, especially since cosplay involves a lot of presenting ourselves in different ways, a lot of escapism, and a lot of sometimes engagement with other people. And while they are two separate worlds, they do involve a level of intimacy that is specific to the person, and that's why things in BDSM are so structured and involve a lot of communication and stuff like that. So today I'm going to be focusing on an aspect of communication, which is approach and negotiations. So basically in BDSM, and this is just going to be a light version of what goes on, you don't ever make assumptions about the person that you intend to engage with. You know, if you are a dom and you are looking for a sub, and just because the sub says, oh, I'm a little or whatever, and that's what you're looking for, doesn't mean you can just go up to them and start talking to them like you're their dom, or expect them to be the kind of little that you want them to be just because they're submissive. That means they should submit to your wants and needs. That's not how it works at all in the community. So I, for example, am a little, and because I'm a little, I have aspects that are pretty basic that a lot of littles have, regressive tendencies, wanting to play with things that might be considered for kids or whatever, such like that. But being a little is also very specific to me. I don't necessarily have an age. I don't necessarily play with like baby toys or anything like that. I do regress, and I need to be taken care of a certain way, or else I will have triggers. I will get anxiety. I'll get a panic attack, and bad things can happen. So approach and negotiation is very important. If somebody came up to me and started talking to me like they were their dom and they knew everything about me, even though we hadn't had a conversation, and they expect me to submit to them, that's all wrong. That's invasive, that's disrespectful, and not at all the way things should happen. And negotiation is all about figuring out, how two separate humans or more, two or more separate humans are going to come together and learn something about each other and agree to something that fits to everyone's needs, or if not, part ways. Such is the way of the world. So I want to apply this to cosplay because people don't understand that these engagements are still engagements. You're still interacting with another human, and we assume that because these engagements are, usually not very long, especially if you want to talk to a cosplayer that you admire or want a picture with, we always assume that, these are not important. These are just small, flippant engagements that, are okay. They're just, everyday things that you do. You just take pictures with cosplayers, or, you just talk to cosplayers. And we are not very mindful because we have all these assumptions about how to engage with a cosplayer. We assume that all cosplayers, want their photos taken. We assume that all cosplayers are going to be friendly and nice. We assume that, asking for a picture is harmless. We assume all of these things, and this huge thing erupted out of that, and it's called consent, and or cosplay is not consent. And people are talking about consent in cosplay because people are not being mindful. People are making these assumptions that, oh, you know, because they're a cosplayer, I can approach them like this. Or, oh, because they're a cosplayer, I don't have to make negotiations because they should just expect that they want their photo taken, or stuff like that. So I don't think that cosplay is not consent necessarily is black and white. You know, there are people who are blatantly disrespectful and, you know, are purposely doing things with the intent to hurt others or belittle others or exploit others. And we know that those kind of people exist, but what people are often referring to are little things that people just didn't keep in mind, and things that people have crossed boundaries not with the intent of being mean or ill or disrespectful, but just miscommunication, misunderstanding, and those things can escalate. And I want to tell you guys these things before they escalate. That way we don't have so much controversy around consent and cosplay, because we take so much as common sense without thinking that there are details within common sense that we need to pay attention to. For instance, I am a shy cosplayer. I don't know what to do with myself when people want a picture with me or they want to stop and talk to me for a little bit. I'm not very well equipped for those situations. And so to assume that because I'm dressed up and I'm putting myself out in public in a costume, that I, you know, want photos and that I want people to talk to me is part of that disrespect and part of why miscommunications can happen. So I just want to go over approach and negotiation in a sense that we can be more mindful when engaging with people that aren't full of assumptions, because assumptions aren't fair to both you and the person you're making assumptions about. Basically, we know why it's rude to assume things of other people, but it's unfair to you because when you have expectations, the letdown is so much worse. And I want you guys to avoid being let down and stuff like that too. I do care about you guys, and I want you to not be part of a miscommunication or an escalation all due to a misunderstanding. So let's start with approach. Let's be mindful that you are talking to another human. You are coming into their space. You want something from them. You want their time. You want a photo. You want, depending on how big they are, maybe you want like to buy, you know, their prints or whatever, but you're still coming into their space. And so be mindful of that, you know, say, hey, you know, I want some of your time. Do you have a minute? Make sure that you're giving them every opportunity to say that they're busy or they're not able to talk to you right now, or they don't want to talk. You know, don't just invade their space assuming that they're going to engage back. You know, make sure that there's room for them to say, oh yes, I do have time for you, or no, I don't have time right now. So always approach with an open-ended, no expectation kind of a base. And after that, after they do say, yes, I have time for you, present what it is that you want from them. Don't just assume that because they gave you their time that you can do whatever you want with that time. You have to present what it is that you want. So you say, hey, can I take your picture? Hey, you know, can I get your signature on something? I don't know what people do with the bigger cosplayers. I'm not a big cosplayer. Or hey, I just want to talk about making costumes with you for a quick second. So present what it is that you want of them. Again, always make sure that, you know, they have room to say, oh, actually, I don't want to talk about that topic, or actually, I'm not taking pictures right now, or, you know, just leave it open-ended, basically. And then lastly, and most importantly, I think, is be specific. Just because you presented what you wanted doesn't mean that you can run with it. You know, let's say, you know, they said, yes, you can take my picture or a picture with me. It doesn't mean that you can go and pick them up and just be like, haha, this is the kind of picture I wanted to take. Be specific about what it is that you want, you know. And again, I will reiterate it, always leave it open-ended. That way they can say yes, no, whatever it is they agree to. And, you know, just say, hey, can I pick you up for this picture? You know, let them say yes or no. Hey, can I put my arm around you? You know, but try to be like as specific as you can. Like, don't just say, oh, can I like, and then make an ambiguous gesture. No, say, can I put my arm around your shoulder? Can I put my arm around your waist? You know, stuff like that. So, I don't know. I think it's very important. There's just things that we do that are second nature, especially since, you know, sometimes people who are more social might not be aware that, you know, other people aren't that social or they don't want to be touched. You know, some people assume that because it's a picture, you're automatically going to be touching because that's what people do in pictures. They like hang on each other, they get close to each other. And it's just an assumption. And I don't think people do it or cross boundaries necessarily because they're trying to be rude or disrespectful or mean. They just assumed that it was okay, and these assumptions are very invasive to other people because other people might not have the same idea of engaging with others that way. So treat everything kind of like it's a big deal. Like, you are going into someone else's space, and even though it might just be telling them that you like their costume, just be mindful that you are interrupting somebody else's time. And that's not to say, you know, that they're being snobby or rude or anything like that. But you don't know what somebody else is going through. You don't know what stresses they have or what time they are, or like what time constraints they're on, or maybe they are snobby and rude or whatever, but just don't go in expecting anything because you're just gonna let yourself down, and that always sucks. And I think if we are more mindful, we can avoid things that escalate into something that all started from a misunderstanding. So that's my video for today. Thanks for listening to me. I know I'm not great at articulating myself or putting my ideas together, but thank you for your time. Bye.